Greetings, everyone. I'm Scott Rodell here at the Great River Taoist Center, home to our Academy of Chinese Swordsmanship. Today, we're going to look at this rather unusual weapon. For a long time, I wasn't even really sure what it was called, what the name was. Couldn't find anything online, and it's really a rather unusual piece. You might think, okay, it's for swinging to use like this, but I don't really think so. There's a lot of other weapons that could be used more effectively. They're really well made, which I think tells us something about who might have used them and how they might have been used. I've seen a number of variations. This is the longest one. It's not quite jump rope length, but it's a pretty long one, longest I've seen as far as the chains go. All the examples I've encountered have the same grips here. They have these little washers that have been little fullers in them, like little gears, and more little washers down here, which really lets it swivel and move really easily. And this is really well shaped. So this isn't something just a village blacksmith made. They're fairly unique. I've only come across a few, but who used them? What were they for? And I recently came across a name for these, which is Lian Dai. Now, Lian means chains, obviously referring to that bit there. And I should say the chain is really, really well made. There's little spacers, I guess you'd call them, between there. Those all swivel around and rotate. Then there's little U-shaped guys in between those links, both ways, and they swivel. So it really moves very easily. It's very lithe, if you will. So it's the end for chain, and dai. Dai means to carry or to bring something along. That term dai is also used in jianfa, some types of deflections where your blade is horizontal and you're deflecting. You bring the blade up level to the floor, level to the ground, and deflect before you say use a toe cut or a thrust. So dai can also mean to carry in that sort of sense. Probably not what that means exactly here. I believe this is a weapon for the constables. In China, the magistrate, pre-modern China, Qing China, the magistrate was also the investigator. There wasn't any defense attorney. And when you were arrested, when a constable brought you in, they, of course, restrained you. And I think that's what the idea of this chain come-along weapon is. This is sort of like the Qing version of handcuffs. Now, of course, they had proper manacles when constable, it was sort of, constable I think is the right term for them, not really police, transported criminals, they had manacles, all kinds of things. But can you imagine that if you have to restrain somebody you've just wrestled down, you could have the shorter versions of these, you get it around his wrist, you can, if it's gonna be more than one guy, you got one on his wrist. You can imagine if you get this around somebody, you can restrain them. If you wrap this even lightly around their neck, they're going to come along. So I think this Lian Dai is exactly that. It's this kind of restraining kind of weapon used during the Qing period. Would have been used, I think, primarily, as I said, primarily by the constables of the Qing court. Also, sometimes bannermen were given duties as quote, peacekeepers. They might have also used these. And I think also there's a pair of these in a museum for the bodyguards or the caravan guards, really, that worked with goods being transported. And there's a shorter version of one of these in one of those museums. So I'm thinking, also those caravan guards had this kind of thing. Because, of course, they were well armed. They had swords, spears, even bows. Later on, of course, they even had firearms. Especially if you're nearer to the city, they probably just can't do in every thief they come along. They're probably going to have to at least sometimes restrain them and turn them into the court. And in this case, they probably use that. So something really unusual, not the kind of thing you encounter all the time. I hope you found it interesting. I certainly find all these sort of weird weapons, if you like, really interesting to think how they might have been used. If somebody's trying to grab hold of somebody, or I'm trying to grab somebody, how did I wrap that around and catch them? So I hope you found it interesting. If you did, always appreciate that thumbs up and the subscription. And little preview, you might have noticed the knife sticking in here, some fei jian, flying dagger stuck in a target. Make sure you're subscribed if you want to see more about how to use the fei jian. Until next time, thanks and 再见。